Kapoor, let's take you straight to news coming in, and it's a big one from the Supreme Court, where in a series of hearings that they've had over the Ayodhya title dispute case, the Supreme Court has just said that they will be completing the hearing, or at least are likely to complete the hearing by the 18th of October. Let's go across to Vedya for more on this. Vedya?
Sonal, two or three important points. Number one, Supreme Court yesterday itself asked the lawyers how long will they take from both sides, Hindu sides, Muslim sides. So from hearing all of them, Supreme Court told all of them saying that by 18th October, the hearing must complete. So maximum they can just extend in a day or two. So by end of October 20th or so, the hearing will be completed. So when the judgment will come, Chief Justice retiring on 17th of November, it's a Sunday. So you'll have to give a judgment by 15th. That's Friday. One point. Secondly, there was news about the mediation panel, which was headed by the former Supreme Court Judge Khalifullah, headed the mediation panel. Finally, the mediation failed. They couldn't do so. The hearing started from October 6th. Now, the mediation panelists wrote to the Supreme Court saying that one Hindu and one Muslim parties wanted the mediation to resume. So they wrote to the Supreme Court seeking its directions. Today, the five-judge constitutional bench said yes, mediation, if the parties want, it can continue. But at the same time, hearing will continue side by side, uninterrupted. So if the mediation panel comes to some sort of conclusion, they can place it before the court. But everything should be in confidential. They should maintain confidentiality. So these are the 3 points. And one interesting point which Chief Justice also said to both sides, Hindu and Muslim lawyers, saying that what is the, if you decide the issue finally, what sort of relief they are wanting. So normally what happens in any case argued before the Supreme Court, the court normally asks the suggestions of the lawyers on both sides, saying that what do you expect if you decide this way or that way, what do you want exactly, what sort of relief. So that point Chief Justice today said that no party has addressed what sort of, how to mold the relief. So that probably they would be addressing probably at a later stage. So the points from the Supreme Court are: number one, mediation, if possible, can continue. At the same time, hearing will also continue side by side. So hearing likely to be completed by October 18th. So judgment is expected by 15th of November. And third part is the mediation panel can continue, but everything is in confidence. And if any sort of mediation panel clinches a deal, it can be placed before the court.
And Vedya, the fact that they will be, the deadline that they're looking at is the 18th of October. So in that case, the mediation should be allowed only till that date, or it can go on after that also?
You see, there is no order on that. So probably the mediation panel should also know that they must be knowing, because they're given 18th as the last date. So mediation, if anything possible, would be done before that, or maybe a day or two. So because what happens is, if the mediation happens, something comes out, which is very unlikely. So it was placed before the court, and I think court will have to hear that also, whether all sides agree to that mediation panel. So probably you're right, it may be before 18th or 20th, some date before the end of the hearing, mediation will have to be completed.
All right, so important clarification there. Vedya, stay on with us. If you are just joining us, let me quickly recap the big story for you at this point. Supreme Court, while hearing the Ayodhya title dispute case today, has said that 18th of October is when they are assuming that they're likely, in fact, to complete the hearing of the case. That is sometime in November is when we can have the order. However, also saying that simultaneously mediation, if possible, should go on. That means there can be a simultaneous mediation way, and that report can also then go to the Supreme Court, the final verdict in the Ayodhya case to be read out sometime in November. So that's the important piece of news coming in. Vedya, just take us through the background of the story as well, how long these hearings of the Ayodhya title dispute have been on, and the November date that you said, if you could clarify that again.
You see, the hearing started on 6th of August. Today is the 26th day of the hearing. The Hindu sides have completed, then the Muslim sides are from Sunni Waqf Board and others are right now arguing. They told the court they will take this week and next week to complete their arguments. So that's one point. So yesterday itself, court has said that how long the arguments continue. So then they will have to write a judgment. It's a 5-judge constitution bench. It's not easy to write a judgment in a short span of time with so many days of arguments, and also the issue is very sensitive. Though it may look like just a civil dispute on the land, but it's very emotive and sensitive issue. That's why court wanted to know. So number one, court today is informed all the parties saying that by October 18th maximum, the hearing must be over. In case if it is extended, it may be in a day or two. And second important point is mediation. So mediation, what happened? Justice Kalifullah headed the mediation panel along with spiritual guru Sri Ravi Shankar and mediation expert Sri Ram Panchu, all the 3 members. So it went on for Faizabad, but unfortunately there was no consensus. It couldn't come to a conclusion. They informed the court. So after that, only from 6th of August, the hearing started. So now the hearing is going on from day-to-day basis, continuously without any interruption. So now the mediation panel has told the court saying that 2 parties wanted to resume the mediation. So now court finding it saying that why should they stop the mediation if something comes out? We never know what will happen. So that's what court has given leeway to the mediation panel just to try further. So, but as you rightly said, by 18th of October or 20th of October, even the mediation panel should wind up and inform the court what has happened. So finally, the judgment will be delivered. But on 17th of November, that's on a Sunday, Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi retired. So you will have to deliver the judgment 15th, that's Friday, November. So before that, even on 11th, 12th, both are holidays in the Supreme Court in November. So 13, 14, 15, 3 days are left on that week. So it's up to them because it's a 5-judge bench. They will have to write, probably every judge might be willing to write the judgment. So whether it's a majority, minority, these are all issues to be taken on the day of the judgment. Sonal?
All right, interesting. So before the CJI retires, will we finally have the judgment there between 13th to 15th is what Ayodhya is looking at this point. But Ayodhya, just a bit of more clarification on this simultaneous mediation that is going on. Does that mean that when they sit down to write the judgment, once they've heard all sides of the story in the courtroom, and whatever the outcome of the mediation is, if at all there is one, that will also be factored in before they write in the judgment? Is that correct?
Naturally. See, for example, if you just, though it's highly hypothetical, let's assume the mediation panel achieved something, there is a mediation, they will accept to certain plan. So what will happen is that plan will have to be placed before the court, and Supreme Court will approve it after, speaking to the lawyers in the open courtroom on both sides. So instead of writing a long judgment, whatever the mediation panel says, they will have to write it saying that both sides agree, this is our judgment. So the writing of the judgment becomes very easy if the mediation panel comes to some sort of conclusion.
All right. And if there is a judgment where they're in a scenario, I'm just thinking of possibilities over here. If the mediation says the panel comes out with one set of things and the judges say something else, how will that be weighed in?
You see, mediation panel means what? All the parties participating in the mediation should come to a consensus. If there is no consensus, then there is no mediation at all. So if there is a consensus, then the Supreme Court would be just taking the mediation panel's report and writing its judgment. So that's what I meant. So if there is no consensus, then whatever the court heard from both sides, they will have, based on their arguments, court will have to write a lengthy judgment. And as I told you, 5 judges are there, and probably everyone will want to write a judgment because Ayodhya is such an issue. Probably they want to have their names etched in the history of the Indian Supreme Court.
Right. Vaidyanathan, thank you so much for all those details. If you're just joining us, let me quickly recap the big news at this hour. That is that on October 18th, that's when the Supreme Court says, the high panel there says that they're likely at least to complete the hearing of the Ayodhya title dispute case. That means that essentially between the 15th of November to the 13th of November, that's the timeline before the CJI retires, is what we're looking at when the judgment could be pronounced. However, they have also said that simultaneous process of mediation should continue which means that if the mediation panel comes up with a consensus view, then that becomes the final judgment on this. If not, then the conclusion and the majority judgment in the 5 panel, this highly placed panel, that view will be taken on board. So that's the big news coming at this hour, where the CJI, interesting how Vaidyanathan was pointing out, the Chief Justice of India, he retires on the 17th of November. So before that, between 13th to 15th is when we can expect the Ayodhya title dispute case to finally be delivered.